Hey guys, welcome, welcome, welcome. Happy Monday. Happy Monday. I am so excited about today's interview. This is something completely out of my scope. Most of you who know me, you know my name is Tamora Johnson. I am the creator, founder, and visionary of Make It Rise. Rise is an acronym for Rebuild Intentionally and Strategically for Effectiveness. I am usually coming on here to share about what it is that I do, or to talk to couples or divorcees about, healing and the whole process of what Make It Rise is about. But today, I am honored to be here to interview Miss Clarisse Jordan, and this is going to be a very, very, very amazing discussion. I am going to bring her on shortly, and she'll be able to share some things about her, and then we'll go directly into this discussion. But before I do that, I want to first and foremost say thank you to Love Wins Publishing with Miss Tanya DeFreitas. Thank you so much for entrusting me with this baby that you have birthed by allowing those who are not purchasing books, but writing books to come on and interview and talk about what their story is in the book that they are writing. This book that we are talking about today is called, and I'm gonna call it a movement, and it's so amazing because it's definitely in alignment with what it is that I do or that I talk about. But we're talking about life after, right? And not life after divorce, but when I bring Miss Clarisse in, she is going to share more about what her after is. And we're going to talk about the importance of just being able to live life after whatever your thing is. But we want you to use this as, I would say, like a tool. Use this as whatever your it is to live life loud after it. Okay. So I'm going to go ahead and bring in our guest for today. You guys, excuse me, because you're going to see me put my glasses on, take them off, put them on, take them off. It's a whole issue with the contacts today, but it's okay. I am pushing through, and we are going to make sure that what is supposed to be said will be said. You guys are going to be fed. Hopefully you are coming with open hearts and open minds, ready and available to receive what is going to be shared. For those of you, the viewers that are here right now, that are watching while we are live, thank you so much. Make sure that you share and that you like and that you comment. And for those of you that came back for the replay, thank you as well. And we ask that you do the same thing. You can also comment and you can also share. In your comments, we'll come back and we'll respond, either myself, Clarisse, or the publisher of Love Wins Publishing, Tanya DeFreitas. But we want you to be able to use this as a platform where you're able to ask questions, because we don't know what we don't know, right? And although we won't be able to share everything in this hour of what it is that we are going to speak about, there are going to be some good things that we're going to share with you today. So I am going to bring in Miss Clarisse and give her the opportunity to share what it is that we are going to be talking about today, and who she is and how this all got started. Hey, sis, how are you?
Hi, how are you?
I'm great. I'm great. So I want to tell you, as I said before we went live, thank you so much. It is an honor to virtually meet you and to share with you and to ask you questions and to understand for myself, right? Because as I said before, you don't know what you don't know. And sometimes it's hard for us to ask questions in areas where there's this stigma about a certain thing, right? Some folks are not only uncomfortable for you, but they're uncomfortable to ask the question.
Right.
And so the fact that you're available to share, I want to say thank you. But before we get started with that portion of it, I know we were supposed to have Sean DeYoung, the Executive Director of Allies for Health and Wellbeing, which is the fiscal agent for the book project, and they're also co-sponsors. We were supposed to have him on today as well, but he was in an accident. And so we just want them to know, and him to know, his family to know, that we are definitely lifting them up in prayer. Yes. And we're just appreciative for what it is that they provide for this and their sponsorship. Man, that is amazing. Along with, of course, Love Wins Publishing Company, also co-sponsors to this movement. What an amazing thing, Clarisse. I want you to share with the people what it is, what your after is. What are we talking about today? And who
We are
are
talking we are talking about life after HIV.
you? Mm-hmm.
Um, who am I? I am, first of all, I am a woman of God. I am a sister, I'm a daughter, I'm an activist, but I am also an African American woman living with HIV.
Mm-hmm.
I have been HIV positive now for almost 40 years. I was infected when I was 16 years old by my first partner. He knew he had it, didn't tell me. And I found out 2 years later that I actually had it when I was 18 years old. And he tried to get in the service. And so, just a little bit of my story is that he tried to get in the service. My brother, who was a Navy recruiter at the time,
Mm-hmm.
took my picture of me and the young man at the prom. And the Navy recruiter said, "Hey man, this is your sister, and this is her boyfriend." And my brother said, "Yes. What are you asking me this stuff for?" And he showed my brother um, the HIV test for why my boyfriend could not get in the service, because in '89 you could not get in the service if you were HIV positive.
Yeah, yeah.
So my brother then had to come home and tell my mother. My mother then had to share it with me. I went and got tested, found out that I was HIV positive, lived in shame for about 5 years,
Yeah.
and then had, I'm going to say, not an epiphany, but God just woke, an aha moment with the Lord, where
Yeah.
he woke me up and said, "Listen, what you gonna do with this? You gonna sit here and die, or you gonna get up and live
Woo.
and trust me?" And that birthed my ministry.
Yeah.
And I began, to share my story. It was called Personal Perspectives at the time. I was on Ally Speakers Bureau, which was at the time Pittsburgh AIDS Task Force. And I just began to speak and share my story. And that's what I do. There's no shame to my game. you know,
Yeah.
I am living, I'm not just living, I'm thriving.
Yeah.
And so in that, life after was birthed.
I love that. Some of us would say, oh God, that's so unfortunate. And while, of course, there is that side that you feel that about, but what makes it so amazing is that you turn that thing around to be a positive, for you to be a positive impact on others' lives. As you shared, you became an activist. So when we are activists, or we advocate for something in particular, that means we're reaching out and we have to share our story. We have to be transparent. And one of the things that I always say is that my transparency is someone's road to recovery. Right?
Absolutely.
And although some may say, well, I'll never recover from this or from that, or whatever their thing is, it's a mental recovery that we are trying to get you to, right?
Absolutely.
Because if you can change the mindset of where you're at, your location, then you could change the direction of where you're going.
Absolutely.
Right? If you could change the mindset of your current location, then you could change the direction in which you are going. And
Absolutely.
so your direction was to be an activist and to advocate for those who are in the same shoes that you're in, and saying, hey, you can survive this thing, right? And as you shared, you have no problem with sharing. You're not embarrassed or any of those things. This
right.
is where you are.
Right. God called me to this. I know some people would say, how can you say God called you to talk about HIV? There are some things that happen to us not because of us, but because of the people that we can help. And I'm going to tell you how my pastor always says it in church. She says, in this life, we're on a stage. Each one of us are given different parts to play. So my part in life is living with HIV. but not just living with it, talking about it,
Mm-hmm.
you know.
Mm-hmm.
And so he has anointed me to do this.
When we talk about being anointed to do something that society would tell us to sit down on, something that God is telling us to stand up on, uh, there's a lot of laughter and chatter that goes on in the background. And it takes a special person, a special individual, to be strong enough to know that it's happening, or hear it happening, and still move forward. One thing that I will share with you and our viewers is that your status, regardless to if you're HIV positive or whatever your status is, your after is, regardless to what it is, your status has nothing to do with your purpose. Right.
Nothing.
And so your purpose, if your purpose was to stand strong and firm on this particular thing that God has ordained you and anointed you to carry, it would be in your best interest to do that, because the blessing is not in you not knowing what to do. The blessing is in your obedience, not knowing what to do, but still trusting God and doing it. Does that make sense?
Absolutely. Yes.
And so I know that I am speaking to somebody out there that have their own life after something, right? While we're talking about HIV, like you living life after HIV, the undertone of this thing is that you can.
You can.
That you can. So you are a prime example of what you can do after receiving such news. So you said that you learned this, the way that you found out, my God. Now, when you said it, I didn't read that. So when you said it, I was like, wait, what? Like, is that how that happened? So you contracted it in 2016, and your boyfriend at the time, of course he knew, because he was DQ'd from going into the service as a result, but he never shared it with you.
Never shared it with me.
Now, in that, if you were talking to, because I know right now we're talking, it may be adults that's listening to this, but to the adults that are listening, the parents that are listening, if you could share with a parent something that they could share with their child that would be beneficial as a result of what you experienced at the age of 16, what would that be?
That HIV can happen to anyone. It doesn't discriminate. You can be young, you can be old, you can be middle age. Mm-hmm. It can happen to you if you are doing some of the things that will put you at risk. If you are having unprotected sex, if their child is having unprotected sex, mm-hmm. then they can get HIV. So if I could share anything with a parent, is be open and honest with your children.
Yeah.
Educate them. And I know for us in the church, our motto is, if my whole household is saved. But here is the reality. God saved you, the parent. The child may not be living saved.
Yeah.
And so it's in your best honor, in your best interest to educate that child, and not just educate them. When I say educate, I mean talk to them about condom usage, mm-hmm. Anything that is going to help to save their lives.
Yeah.
And a condom will protect a person from HIV just by using a latex condom. Yes, mm-hmm. We know abstinence will work, and we would love to think that our children are not doing anything.
Right.
But that is not reality. So reality is you take what we've been given and you educate your children to the best of your ability.
Yeah.
On how to protect themselves.
I love that. I have young children as myself. Well, the youngest is 18, but still, of course, you never want to imagine your child having sex. But as you said, the reality of it is they will, right? We don't get to, it's a choice that they make, and we can pour into them as much as we can. And I would encourage the mother, the father, to share these types of conversations with them, those hard conversations, because we don't want them to do it, because they're going to do it, but we don't want them to do it and say, well, no one ever told me.
And you don't want them to get the education from the street. See,
Yeah.
because when you educate them, you can educate them the right way. If they
Yeah.
get it from the street, I promise you, it's not going to be the same.
Definitely. It's going to be completely different from what you would share, right?
Exactly.
Man, I was reading your bio, and it says that you were told that you would die, but you chose to live. So what does choosing to live look like in action? What did that look like for Clarisse?
Choosing to live for me was one, getting myself, at the time, I was just in the house, literally waiting to die. Um, I was suffering with some illnesses and stuff, and I was literally just waiting to die. I wasn't living at all. So choosing to live was the first thing, was getting up, putting my feet on the floor,
Mm-hmm.
tapping into that inner warrior, and living, just coming out of the house, you know, living. And I don't, like I said, I don't just live, I thrive. You know,
Yeah.
I am happy. I am, I have a relationship with Jesus Christ, and I am just living to the fullest. I am doing what God has called and ordained for me to do. I'm living in my truth. I'm not walking in any shame. I am not the victim. I'm not living the victim life. I'm,
I
I'm
love
living.
this. It just, my heart is bubbling brown sugar. Okay. My my heart is just so happy right now because society would think that you'd be woe it's meing right now, right? And I'm a firm believer that, again, it goes back to what I said earlier about the mindset. If we are stuck in that thing, we are drained with that thing, right? And it doesn't give us the capacity or opportunity to live it. And you said that you are thriving. I like to say, which is great. And I like to say that we're living life loud, right? And so
Exactly.
living life loud after whatever that thing is, you living life loud after being positive HIV. And I keep stumbling because I want to say after divorce. I have to, I got to not say that. That's not what this is about. But your after is HIV. So
Right.
living life loud after knowing you are HIV positive says that you are not allowing the restrictions of what society has imparted on you, or what they say you should be doing. So what is common for you, what seems to be common to sit down on, you have said, I will not sit, I am going to stand. I am going
Well,
to reach my hand out, right? And
right.
help
And I
someone.
did it. I did
Mm-hmm,
it at a time
mm-hmm.
when I was told I was going to die. I was 18 years old. They
Okay.
told me I would die, I would be gone by the time
Mm.
I was 24.
How old are
I had
you?
just,
Can I ask? How old are you today?
I am 53 years old.
Come on, God. And you look good. You look
Thank
amazing
you.
at
Thank
53,
you very
okay?
much.
Yeah.
Yeah, I am 53. I just turned 53 October 20th.
I love it. So that in itself says that regardless to, and I know we have the doctors that are here, and God ordained those doctors to do what it is that they do. But we also have to understand that the power that lies within us will surpass what paper says is going to happen. So you, all of these years later, thriving and living your best life, doing what you were purposed to do, is a testimony to someone who is listening, or that will be listening to this broadcast, because of, and sometimes it's like looking at what your after is, and then me saying, shoot, I'm sitting here complaining about, only having $50 in the bank, and this young lady is living her life loud, HIV positive. How dare I, right? And so, and that's another reason I am so grateful that you are open and available and willing to be transparent about your status. It's amazing.
I tell people, when I had that come to Jesus moment,
Mm-hmm.
sitting in my house, I promised God that if he would walk with me through
Yes.
this, I would use this for his glory. I would do whatever
Yeah.
he had called me to do. I didn't care how hard it was, how many times I had been in the hospital. I didn't care as long as I knew that he was with me.
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
so living life to me, it's easy now. I'm not saying life is easy, but it's easy to walk in this
Yeah.
because I know that there is a God with me. you
Right.
know
Right.
and so as long as he's being glorified, you know it doesn't matter to me what anybody else thinks about my
Absolutely.
status, or about me sharing whatever. You'll get over
Yeah.
it.
You'll get over it because I'm good. Right.
Right, right.
Oh, I love that. Sometimes we say, Lord, if you get me out of this time, or if you do this, I promise you, I'll serve you for the rest of my life. I'll do this and I'll do that. So I want to say to you on behalf of God, thank you for being committed to the commitment. You committed to him that if you just be with me in this, I'm just going to live this thing out, right? And you have shown and approved that that is what you're doing. And no one will be able, this is how God works. I can't look at you and say, she's HIV positive.
Right.
I can't look at you and say, she's sickly. There's something going on with her. I don't know what it is, but she's sick. No, you have a glow about you. And I know it's the anointing that is resting on you because of the anointing that is resting in you. Right.
Absolutely.
And because it's in you, it's on you, it has to come out. And so for
Absolutely.
those of us who have the lens to see anointing, we know what it is. But for those who don't see anointing and they just see something that's great about that individual, they say it's something about her. Or those that say it's something about her that I don't like, right? So it can go either way. It can go either way. So thank you for shining for those that are, not that don't believe or don't know what the anointing looks like in person. You are a prime example. And thank you for representing and representing who God is in your walk. So your representing says that you are talking to those who don't believe the God that we serve. Your representing says, I am going to share with those who may have lost a little faith, who may, especially since the pandemic, people are questioning who God is. Who is there really a God, for allowing all of these things to occur? So this right here, your walk in your life after says, I need to represent who he is. Let me just be a reminder of what God can do and who he is in just even with what's going on. So thank you so much. There's a couple of quotes in the book that I wanted to touch bases on. But before I do that, your publisher, co-sponsor of Love Wins Publishing, Tanya DeFreitas, she said something that's very profound. She said, there is a life after, however, precaution can be taken, right?
Absolutely.
So we don't want to just be like, well, I mean, if I catch it, if I do it, if I get it, there's still life after. So I'm just going to be willy-nilly and do it. No.
Absolutely not.
Yeah, we have to be
Absolutely not.
proactive versus reactive. What's your stance on that?
I teach that. That is my motto.
Yeah.
There is, HIV is 100% preventable. And so there is, at this day and time, there is no reason that anybody should be getting diagnosed with HIV because it is 100% preventable.
Wow.
Like I said, I tell young people all the time, I'm not here to judge you. I'm not here to tell you don't do it. I'm here to tell you how to do it smart.
Mm-hmm.
Meaning, protect yourself.
Mm-hmm.
And protecting yourself is either abstinence, not doing it, or if you're going to do it, to wear a latex condom, to know your status, to know your partner. I tell young people all the time, if you cannot sit down and openly have an open conversation with the person you are getting ready to be with, then you don't need to be with them.
Mm-hmm.
And when I say open conversation, I'm talking about sex.
Yeah.
Know who you been with, what you did you go get tested? Have you ever had an STD?
Yeah.
All of that.
Right.
And if you are not having that kind of conversation with them, then you don't need to be with them.
Yeah. Yeah. To the children, and unfortunately to the adults as well. We need to have those conversations with adults also. But definitely, this is a broadcast that needs to be shared with teens right now, with the young folks as well, because it's imperative that they understand that just because you're young doesn't mean that it can't happen. You were 16, your first partner. And so that in itself says, yeah, you too, it can happen to you as well. One thing that you said that I thought was powerful, you said HIV is 100% preventable, right? How many things can we say is 100% preventable? My life after was not 100% preventable. I couldn't prevent from being divorced. Life happens. Things happened, right? In my marriage at the time. I went in knowing, of course, not hoping, but knowing that this may not be till death do us part. Although I said it, you or whoever could lay down with someone and say, I will protect myself so that when I get up, there will not be any lingering results of what I just did, right? So for you to say 100% preventable, I think we need to really, really lay heavy on that, especially for our teens, adults too, but we need to lay heavy on that, because if you can avoid something from happening, why not?
Exactly.
Why not?
Exactly. And when I got it, it was in the early 80s. It was in 89. Well, I found out in 89, but it was in 86 that I actually contracted it. So then we didn't know a lot about HIV or even how to prevent it.
Yeah.
Now we know how to prevent it.
Yeah.
And there are so many things out there. Something called PrEP, which is you take a pill. If if a person knows that they are not a person that can sustain from having sex or using a condom, they have something called PrEP. Okay. That you take a pill that will stop. It's an HIV pill that you actually take, but it will stop HIV from even going in your system.
What?
Yes. Okay. Yes. Those are the advancements that are now here. Okay. So that's why I say that HIV is 100% preventable.
Got it.
Because there's medicine you can take, just using a latex condom, just knowing your status, knowing who you are being intimate with. All of those things are things that can protect you. That was not there when I was infected with HIV. The worst thing I thought that I had to protect myself was pregnancy. Wow. Never thinking HIV. I told a story that when I was in high school, I had someone come to my high school to talk about HIV to the health class. I was 16 at the time. I was saying, oh, that will never happen to me because it's a gay white male disease. That's what they used to call it back in the 80s.
Yeah.
And here, little did I know, while that gentleman was in my health class talking, I already had HIV.
Yeah, that is powerful. Wow. You already had it, but you were saying that will never happen to me because you were thinking I'm not going to get pregnant. Like it was the pregnancy thing.
Right.
That was the scariest thing for you was pregnancy.
Absolutely.
Meanwhile, you were sitting there HIV positive and not knowing it.
Didn't even know it.
Wow. Tanya says PrEP is a pill to stop HIV from entering your system. Y'all better get a pill if you don't want to wrap it up. That's right. You better get a pill if you don't want to wrap it up. So I noticed in your book, of course, to save identity of those that are in this anthology, they are labeled, each chapter is labeled Survivor 1, 2, 3, so forth and so on. And there's a quote in here. It says, survival can be summed up in 3 words: never give up.
Absolutely.
That was one of the, I highlighted a few of them in here, but this was one of the most powerful quotes that I read throughout the book. Because we want to know, when we're in, our backs are against the wall, when we are placed in some type of tight room, we want to know, okay, how do I survive this? How do I get out of this? Right. And this quote says that it's summed up in 3 words: just never give up. So not giving up, you clearly did not give up. You were 16, learned about it at 18, and now you're well in your 50s. You never gave up. So, but was there a moment, a time where you felt like giving up? Did you go back and forth with that thing?
There were many times
Yeah.
that I felt like giving up, but I did not, because I knew that this was bigger than me.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I'm not going to tell you that my life has been a walk in the park, because I would be lying to you.
Yeah.
But I could not give up. And I talked about it earlier. I had to tap. Everyone has a warrior inside of them. I tell, especially women, we have an inner warrior inside of us.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so sometimes we have to dig down deep and tap into her.
Yes.
And I promise you, when you do it, you're going to come out fighting.
Listen.
And there is no give up. And so
Yeah.
I got to the point where I said, you know what? HIV, if you're going to get me, you're going to have to come and find me, because I'm living my life. There is no give up. And
Yeah.
I would tell young people, when you hear that Miss Clarisse has died, just know she was ready. It was time to go. I've done everything I was supposed to do. And so I just gave up the ghost.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because I'm living. And there is no, I don't care how hard life gets.
Mm-hmm.
The first thing that I have to do is put my feet on the floor.
That's it.
And once I put my feet on the floor, it's on and cracking. I'm in a prayer line in the mornings. And the pastor always tells us, just put your feet on the floor.
Yeah.
Once you put your feet on the floor, God is going to work on your behalf, because he knows she's ready. She's ready to fight.
Yeah.
So there is no give up.
There is no give up. Now, in those moments where you felt like giving up, because I know you would share with us that it's important to have somebody or somebodies that are there when you get weak, that's holding you up. Who was your strength outside of God? Because I know in the earlier time of this, you needed that tangible.
The Lord has always blessed me with strong spiritual guidance. All through my journey, I have had strong women that I can rely on. And, my godmother, she was, a strong prayer warrior, that I could just cry in those times that I just did not want to do this anymore. There have been times that I have said, God, I don't want this no more. I don't want to be the spokesperson no more. I'm done. Yeah. Let me just go and live my life.
Yeah.
Those were the times that, I had to call those women. My pastor right now, Pastor Myrna Hollenbeck, there was a time that I wanted to stop taking medicine. And she said these words. She said, I wish you would. Just like I'm looking at you. That's what she said. Do it.
Yeah.
I want you to. Try it and see what happens.
Yeah.
Meaning, you're going to take this medicine. Now, how you take it will be up to you, but I promise you're going to take it.
You taking this medicine. Right.
So, not only were they're prayer warriors, but they held me accountable to do what I needed to do for myself. And I'm not going to lie and tell you, there were not times that I just didn't have the strength.
Yeah.
Those days that I didn't have the strength, they were my strength.
Yeah.
So absolutely, you have to have people behind you that you can call on. That's what I try to be to people in the HIV/AIDS world. Anyone, especially, in the city of Pittsburgh, anyone that is living with HIV, I have people calling me from out of state, different countries, that sometimes when they just need to talk, they know that I'm a listening ear and I'm a shoulder that they can cry on.
Yeah. Yeah. I love it. So you, as you said, a spokesperson, right? And then you had someone to tell you, I wish you would, right? Because they saw in you what you know today, but they saw that in you. They knew that you were going to be that person that others would need to come to and be inspired by and lean on and share with. And so God will strategically place people in our lives, right?
He will.
In our weakest times, because he knew and he knows that it's going to get a little heavy sometime. And we need that tangible. And as you said, you've always known the God was there. That never went anywhere. But sometimes we need to see, feel, hear, like that tangible person encouragement to help us move forward. When you said something about medicine, it kind of nudged me to ask you this question. And you did share with me that I could ask you whatever. So are there any, do you experience anything as a result of being HIV positive? Are there, like, you more prone to certain things, colds or, the flu, whatever it is? Are you more prone to catching those things?
All of those. Absolutely, okay. I am.
Okay.
Because I am immunocompromised.
Okay.
So I have to take precautions. I have to make sure I have my flu shot. I have to make sure, for me, I took the COVID shots. I had to make sure I have my pneumonia shots. I have to make sure I'm taking my vitamins. I have to make sure I'm getting enough rest. Mm-hmm. And when I don't feel good, I have to take that time to take care of myself. I have to make sure that I'm not stressed out. Let me say that at one time I was taking 39 pills a day.
Wow.
And that was just HIV medicines. That wasn't even, let's not even count, add the other pills that I had to take because of what the HIV virus did in my body.
Got it.
So just HIV pills. Now, HIV medicine has advanced so much that I only take one HIV medicine, but yes, I have to make sure that I take care of myself. And the worst thing that I can do is get stressed out. HIV and stress just does not go together.
Yeah. Yeah. Stress is already one of the number one killers. So
exactly.
Attaching that to, but see, stress, there's the attack on the brain, the mindset again. It goes back to that. When we're stressed about something, when we're worried about something, when we're concerned about something, right? It affects everything in us, how we move, how we operate, our decision making, right? Our immune system, everything is just broken down. If you already have an illness that has affected, those things already, to add to that is just not, it's not good.
But we are susceptible to colds, to flus, to viruses. I tell people all the time, you don't have to worry about what I can give you. Because here's the way you would get something from me, that's not going to happen.
Wow, that's powerful.
But I do have to worry about what you may be carrying that I may catch.
My goodness. And so here we are walking around ignorant, pretty much, not knowing that if you touch me as an HIV positive individual, I can't catch it, right? We're ignorant, and we think that, like, you hear someone is HIV positive or they have AIDS, it's kind of like, oh my God. But what you just said is powerful. You don't have to worry about catching what I have, because the way you can get it from me, that's not happening. But you can breathe on me, you can cough, and I will immediately catch what virus you have. That is powerful in itself. And this is why we need to be educated on these things, because when you don't know, you just don't know.
You don't know.
We have a question. What inspired your vision for the book?
Well, my vision was, let me say, I wrote in Tanya DeFrady's Brutal Courage, the remix.
Mm-hmm.
And I wrote in her book because I was on Facebook Live for a young lady just sharing my story. And Tanya seen the story. Tanya was sharing her story. She seen the story, asked me to be a part of Brutal Courage, the remix. That gave me a writing bug. And so after that, I experienced, even though I had been sharing my story for years, I experienced a level of healing that I just didn't expect it to experience.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And so one day I was sitting, and I was just sitting on the side of my bed. And I know it had to be the Lord that brought it to my attention that what you experience, you need to take to the HIV/AIDS world. Mm. But you need to do it in a way that they would be able to share their story in confidentiality, anonymously. So I called Tanya and I said, Tanya, I Tanya is not easy to get sometimes, but I called her and I said, Tanya, I need to talk to you. I want to do a story. I want to, write a book where people are sharing their stories that are living with HIV, where they can just tell their stories and just, be transparent, but do it in an anonymous way. And so as soon as I said that to Tanya, meanwhile, back at the ranch, I didn't have no money.
Yeah.
I didn't have nobody that was going to be a part of the book.
Yeah.
Nothing. I just had this vision.
Mm-hmm.
And so Tanya said to me, she said, wow, immediately it like leaped in her belly.
Of course.
She said, listen, if you get the people, we will make this book happen.
I love it.
I went online. I went on Facebook and I'm in a couple groups for people living with HIV. Okay. And I told the people what I wanted to do. I promise you, by the end of the day, I had 20 people that had contacted me wanting to be part of the book. So it was like if you build it, they'll come.
Yeah. And it just is just a reminder and confirmation of Habakkuk 2:2, that if you write the vision and make it plain, he that reads it will run with it, right? They'll know what it is that you are doing, what it is that you are going after, right? And so that's exactly what you did. Once you got the vision, you made it plain, you wrote it out, you said, this is what I'm looking for. And they said, okay, here I am. And so, and not only do you have this, didn't you all just release your second volume of Life After?
We did. You can pre-order it right now on Love Wins Publishing Company. If you go to their webpage, you can pre-order. We have Life After Volume 2.
I am so proud of you for continuing, to push through. I know that it's not always easy. I know that there are days where you wake up and you say, I don't want to do this anymore. Not I don't want to do life anymore, but I don't want to be that face anymore. Because when you are that face, there are some expectations, that come with being the face of whatever that thing. You stand and say, hey, I'm here to say that I am advocating for this thing. People are looking for the advocate in you every single day. And sometimes they aren't able to separate Clarisse from the advocate, right? So you know that I am who I am, but I represent many things as who I am, right? I like to share with people that who you are and what you do are two separate things. Who you are will enhance what it is that you do. So let's not get it twisted and think that I should only be what I do. I am this person. Because of my integrity and my morals and my values, what I do is enhanced by that, right? Exactly. But people will not address you by who you are and only by what you do. So sometimes we need that distinction because it's heavy. It can be heavy. There's a lot of weight to it. And we just want to be you just want to be Clarisse sometimes. Like, I want to have a conversation that removes HIV, me being HIV positive. And it doesn't say it removes me advocating for it. It
Right.
just says that I am still just Clarisse.
Exactly. Exactly. And the weight of ministry can
Mm-hmm.
be heavy.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Absolutely, it can.
Yeah.
And sometimes it is heavy. But the people that are in my book, the courageous people that were willing to tell their story in volume 1, and the courageous people that were willing to tell their story in volume 2, you know, most of them never have met me. They didn't know me from a can of paint. They knew
Mm-hmm.
nothing about me, but they seen what I was trying to do, and they trusted me to tell their stories.
Yeah.
And so to me, each one of them, they're like my babies.
Yeah.
And so I am very protective of them, and I have to make sure, I had to make sure that, they are protected and in every sense of the word, you
Yeah.
know, because, it's just important to me. I love each and every one of them. Most of them I've never laid my eyes on, but
Wow.
I can tell you I love them.
Yeah. When you share something in common as intimate as this, I'm going to say this is something that's very intimate, because there are some things that you experience in this that, although I have my own life after story, I'll never experience the emotion that you have. So the connection that you have with your co-authors is going to be completely different, and so what we require is the respect of the life after.
Right. And this Life After Volume 2, we did a little different.
Okay.
We opened it up to people that were infected and affected
Oh, I
by
like that.
HIV. So we have, people, that may have had a family member pass of
Mm-hmm.
it, or they have a family member that is actually living with it now.
Mm-hmm.
People that work in the field that,
Mm-hmm.
if you are affected by it, not just
Yeah.
infected. See, because sometimes we forget that
Yeah.
HIV doesn't just affect the person that is infected with it, but it affects the people that are around them.
Yeah.
So I opened it up this time to people that were infected and affected.
That's very important, because again, you don't know what you don't know. And so those that are affected by it, they need guidance too. They need coaching as well. They need someone to love on them also, to show and share with them how to be okay with what it is your loved one has encountered, to educate them on, like we just said, there's a lot of things that we're just ignorant to, and it's only because it's what society has put out there, and we haven't done our own homework to find out that, hey, if she touched you, you don't just automatically, now you are susceptible to having HIV. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
And so we live in fear when we don't know, or we don't know what type of conversations to have, what not to have, what to say, what's offensive, what's not offensive. So what happens in that is sometimes it keep those who are affected, it keep them from going around the infected.
Right.
So if I'm affected by what it is that my sister has encountered, say my sister is HIV positive, and it feels like every time I go around her, I can't talk to my sister. I have to talk about what she has and not who she is. I don't know what to say. I'm not going around her. So now relationships begin to be affected because of what the individual is infected by. Does that make sense?
That does.
So
That makes perfectly good sense.
I love that this book, the volume 2, speaks to the affected and infected individuals. Now, in that volume, was it affected and infected? Like, were those two people connected, or this is just random?
This is just random people that have come out to tell me they wanted to share their stories. When I realized that HIV just doesn't affect the person that is infected, but it does harm sometimes to the people that are affected. And so the people that are affected have some dynamic stories and some things that they had to overcome themselves. And so I just wanted the world to know their stories too. Let's not just look at the side of the person that is living with it. Let's look at the side of the person that has been affected by the person that is living with it.
Wow. It reminds me of, and we're going to close, but before we do, and I have a last question for you, but I wanted to share, it reminds me of a movie that I went to see a couple of days ago called The Inspection. And it's with Gabrielle Union. And in this movie, her son is gay, right? And just how she received him, or lack thereof, was just, it was so hard, because although she was affected by his choice of being gay, he was affected by her not being open and available to learn that it's really not as big as, it's just a choice of yours, right?
Exactly.
And so he went and did whatever he needed. He felt like he needed to do. I don't want to give too much of the movie, but he went and did what he needed to do. He went to the service, to try and prove some points and all of that, to his mom that was affected by a choice that he's made. And although I know this isn't a choice that you made, but although you are infected, you're also affected by those that are affected.
Absolutely.
Because of how they treat you. So you're affected as the infected by the affected.
Right. And sometimes the affected can be because of the choice of the person that has been infected to not share with with your family.
Oh, that's good.
And not give them a chance to accept and be there for you. So some of them may have stories that are affected because they just weren't given the chance to be there because of stigma, because of the person, the stigma that the other person who is infected may have had to endure, or just didn't want to take that chance. And so just didn't share and didn't tell anyone and lived in silence. And so then that family member or whoever it could be can be affected by that because maybe they really wanted to be there.
Wow.
If that makes sense.
Oh, that makes all the sense in the world.
So, so my infection, let me put it, because I can speak for my family.
Okay.
I have nieces and great nieces and nephews that were born after I was infected. Most of my nieces and my nephews, all they know is of me being HIV positive. It's just part of who I am. But I could have been where I didn't tell anyone in my family, so I wouldn't have given anybody in my family a chance to be there for me. If that makes sense.
Yeah.
So to my nieces and stuff, and it's another book. I can put it out there. It's another book called My Auntie Has AIDS.
Oh wow.
That is coming out. That. Because I'm just auntie. They call me Aunt Missy. I'm Missy. I'm not even Clarisse to them. I'm Aunt Missy.
Okay.
So all they know of Aunt Missy is Aunt Missy has always been open about her HIV status, and so for as long since they've been babies, that's all they know. But it could have been, there are sometimes that people that are positive don't want to take that chance and tell anyone. And so sometimes the person that is infected misses out on the love of their family sometimes. Wow. And so the family is affected because of the decision that the person that is positive has made not to bring them into it.
Wow.
If that makes sense.
Oh, that makes all the sense. Yes. I love that. And I can't wait for my Auntie Missy has. I love that because it's sharing another piece of support, I'm certain. Because if all they know is Auntie Missy is HIV positive, then all they know is how to support her. All they know is how to they were brought in learning how to support, how to love on, how to accept, how not to judge, right? And so then that branches outside in their everyday life, at school, with their friends, right? Certain things that come their way, there's a seed that has been planted in them that says, we will not judge, we will love on, we will, right? By a way of what's going on in our immediate circle, our immediate family. So thank you so much for sharing that. But before we leave, my question to you is, so you were featured in 2010, you were featured in a documentary called Why Us, Left Behind and Dying.
Yes.
My question is to the why us part. Have you ever thought, why me? And if so, did you get an answer? But if not, share with someone who may be saying, why me? Why they shouldn't ask that question.
I'm not going to say they shouldn't ask it.
Okay.
I have asked that question to God.
Okay.
And I'm going to tell you the answer that I got is, why not you?
Yeah.
Again, things happen to us sometimes not because of you, but it's for the people that you can help. And so, why, I have to say, why not me? You know, this is bigger than me, and I'm just fortunate enough that God took something that should have been ugly, that was supposed to end my life, and He turned it into something beautiful.
Yeah.
And I want to see, because I see Tanya telling me, I have to shout out Allies for Health and Well-Being, because Sean D. Young and Allies, him and Tanya, they took something, my vision, and they went along with it, and not just went along with it, but they put money behind it. And I appreciate Allies so much and Loved Ones Publishing, but I appreciate them so much because they believe in me when I didn't believe in myself. I mean, sometimes when these books were getting written, sometimes I was just like, it's just not gonna happen. It's just too big. Let's just forget it. And they believe in me. Tanya and Sean believe in me when I don't believe in myself. And Allies for Health and Well-Being is a nonprofit HIV/AIDS service organization in the city of Pittsburgh that does case management and client services. They have food pantries. Now they have a clinic. So Allies is one of the largest HIV/AIDS organizations here in the city of Pittsburgh.
Yeah. So. Yeah. And as we said earlier, when we first started, we are praying for Sean DeYoung for a speedy recovery. And we're just grateful that he and the organization were willing to back you with your vision, because we all know that sometimes your vision is just your vision and people see it and some people don't, right? And some folks don't see it, but they believe in you. They see your passion and they understand where you're trying to go. So shout out and thanks to them, and also to Love Wins Publishing for being the co-sponsors of this amazing movement. And as I always say, it's a movement and not a moment. Ms. Clarisse, thank you so much for continuing on. Thank you for being committed to the commitment. Thank you for coming on this platform and sharing your status, where you're at, where you're going, how you're moving, for being the face of there is life after. This is not being taken for granted, that you are not here with a black screen over. You're not asking me not to share your name, but you are saying that I am the spokesperson for those who aren't strong enough or willing or ready, right? You are, like, as you said, when I asked you about why me, why not me, you know, it's like, well, why not me? Because as I said earlier, everything that we encounter, you know, your transparency is someone's road to recovery. So we needed a Clarisse. And we need more Clarisses in the world in every area of life, right? As parents, we need someone that's just going to stick to it. As a mother, as a father, right? Someone that's going through divorce, someone that's losing their home, someone that lost their money, someone that is homeless. Like whatever your situation is, the life after, we need a Clarisse in that area.
And let me also say, I was just the visionary for this book, for these
Mm-hmm.
books. The courageous people that took and told their stories, and walked in transparency. I so thank them, because this would not have been done without them. God has blessed me that there were a lot of people behind the scenes to push me, like Tanya and Sean and Tony Anderson. He's another one that believed in my vision and came into this. The people that told their stories, none of this would have been possible without them.
Yeah.
I'm just the one that I just brought them together, but
Yeah.
they are the ones, they are the superstars. And I want to say these proceeds are going, they're not going to any individuals. They are going to, these proceeds for Life After Volume 1 or 2 are being donated to the Elton John AIDS Foundation. So 100% of these proceeds are being donated to the Elton John AIDS Foundation. So I want to, make that clear. People, they didn't, any of all the people that wrote, they could have, they could have said, well, if I'm gonna tell my story, then I'm going to, I want to be paid. They didn't say that. They were willing to donate their stories, to tell their stories and live in their truths for, and not get, any money in return, but for this money to be donated to the AIDS Foundation, to the Elton John AIDS Foundation, that, advances people living with HIV. So I just want to make that clear. And I so appreciate every last one of you all.
Absolutely. And before we end, is there anywhere, any way that if someone wanted to donate to this movement, how can they do that?
Well, right now, if you want to donate, you can send donations to Allies for Health and Wellbeing here in Pittsburgh, PA. You can also send it to Love Wins Publishing Company. And they will make sure that those donations are given directly to our fiscal agent.
I love it. Okay. So Tony Anderson says, don't forget the community work, the CJ Ambassador Program, what they're about to do.
Yes. Life After has turned in, like you said, it's a movement.
Yeah.
And it is turning into its own nonprofit. And so
God.
in that, we are getting ready to start something called CJ's Ambassadors, or where people can come in. CJ Ambassadors will be people that want to volunteer to do education, to help in the community. But also, we are doing right now, we are starting a toiletry drive for Allies for Health and Wellbeing, for the clients that come and use their food pantry, because toiletries are very high.
Yeah.
And so we're starting that. So that's just, that's, the books are just one part of what Life After has turned into.
Yeah.
So like you said, it's a whole movement now.
Yeah, when things become a movement, then it begins to branch out in different areas. And so this is great. I am honored to just sit with you and have this conversation, this discussion for the viewers and for me, for you. I believe that every time you have this discussion, it's just another layer of healing. It's another layer for someone else to be healed, for understanding to be had. And so again, I want you to know that I don't take it for granted that you've given me the opportunity to speak with you. This has been amazing. I love you. And I look forward to maybe doing volume 2. And my auntie Missy is HIV positive. I look forward to sitting with you moving forward. I want to thank Love Wins Publishing for giving me this opportunity to sit and to interview their published authors. I believe that this is something that will be ongoing, that they're including in their packages. And so I am honored to be a part of the team as of today. So thank you so much, Clarisse. And we will be talking soon.
Yes. Take care.
Thank you, viewers.